Frank Foti's home office is filled with bits and pieces of memories from a day that he and his wife Suzanne can never forget.
After we saw the second plane hit, it set in that we were being attacked.
Foti, a longtime physician in Erie, grew up in a Manhattan high-rise near the financial district. And with younger brothers Robert and Joseph working as New York firefighters, his shock quickly turned to fear.
But then that shifted to sheer terror, because this was where I grew up. This was my backyard. And I knew that my brothers, in some manner, shape, or form, were going to be called to serve there. They're both New York City firefighters at the time.
With New York phones down, the Fotis couldn't get through for any word on either brother until that night.
Got a message about 8 o'clock that night that there was contact with my brother Joseph, but no contact from my brother Robert. We never heard from him again.
Bobby, 42, with 3 children and remarried just that summer, was among the New York firefighters who ran toward the World Trade Center, even though his shift had ended, because that's who he was.
He loved being a firefighter. Bobby was larger than life. He was Mr. Energy, Mr. Go, Go, Go. Growing up, he saved a young man from drowning down at the lake. He would always stop and help people on the side of the road. He was just that kind of a kid.
And while the family liked to fantasize that Bobby was somewhere, in time, a photographer who had captured this image of his battalion.
That picture is probably taken 15 or 20 minutes before the South Tower went down.
The photo of firefighters coming up from the subway on Vesey Street and heading toward the command center in the smoking towers. That's Bobby at the back. Proved otherwise.
And so the thought is that his battalion was in the South Tower lobby when the building went down, and they didn't have a chance to get out.
Brother Joseph, answering the alarm for all off-duty firefighters, biked to a firehouse near South Street, not his own.
Doors were open, and he rode his bike in there and just started grabbing boots, jacket. He grabbed the memorial axe, so to speak. And made his way walking toward the World Trade Center.
Still blocks away when the tower collapsed, Joseph felt the deluge of debris, but his life was spared.
You know, they say the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh, and that day, unfortunately, he took Bobby, but fortunately, he gave Joseph back to us.
Finding closure without remains has never been easy.
He was one of the firefighters that were never found. There were families that had whole bodies, parts of bodies, pieces. He was never really found.
So no family time to reminisce in a funeral parlor, just his Proby photograph on an easel in the church as Frank delivered the eulogy.
I was standing at the pulpit with the back of the picture to me. Unbelievable. Just devastating not being able to say goodbye.
Robert's son Bobby, just 11 at the time of the tragedy, was devastated. This poignant published photo of him in a firefighter's helmet.
My nephew Bobby has always been very quiet. His father's death really affected him in a big way.
But now he's carrying on his father's legacy as a firefighter, even wearing his badge number.
It's what he wanted to do, and we all supported him for that, yeah.
And Frank looks forward to the day he'll meet his brother Bobby again in heaven.
He was the life of the party. He was a clown, a jokester. He could be very serious. He could be very tough. He was awesome. He was my best friend.
Dr. Frank Foti is normally private about losing his younger brother, New York City firefighter Robert Foti, in the September 11th attacks. But on the 20th anniversary, he wants people to remember firefighters like Bobby, who ran toward the terror to help.
I wish there were more people like him. I wish there was more love in this world, as opposed to all the terror and fear that we have to live with. Life is short, and it can change on the drop of a dime.
This is the last picture of Robert the Fotis have, a photographer capturing his battalion heading to the burning South Tower of the World Trade Center, moments before it collapsed. A 20-year war in Afghanistan followed.
When they first started, it was like, go get them, you know? But after a while, 20 years, what do you, I mean, in some ways, we took the fight to them. This is far from over.
That sentiment punctuated by the recent ISIS-K terror attack at the Kabul airport that took the lives of 13 U.S. servicemen and women and scores of Afghans hoping to evacuate.
First of all, I want to thank our servicemen, their families, the sacrifice. God bless them. It's kind of hard to watch us pull out, but we can't stay there forever. How we pulled out, I'm kind of disappointed. I know we could have done a better job.
A feeling he says the families of the 343 lost firefighters from 9/11 share with military families.
I've met many military men and families, and they've taken it just as hard as the 343 from the fire department, and harder.
Dr. Foti and his wife Suzanne will go to the 20-year memorial ceremony of 9/11 in New York City. He's gone before. At
the time of the plane crashes, they do the bells. And so there's 2 sessions of the bells, and those are gut-wrenching.
But afterward, there's comfort and fellowship with the fraternity of firefighters.
Eventually, we break bread and sit and eat and talk and remember the good old days. And some of the guys who used to know him, you know, tell stories about how he used to hang up on the roof and throw buckets of water off the roof onto the probies and things like that.
It's also become a Foti family tradition to take that fellowship to the Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Colorado Springs, where each year they remember North American firefighters lost in the line of duty. Robert's mother, Rose, deciding to cook a homemade spaghetti dinner for them all.
So we'd go down a couple of days early, we'd go shopping, we'd get the firefighters to come in and help us make meatballs, and my mother would be the boss, and she'd yell at everybody, make sure everybody was doing their job.
One small way of finding a will to defend the American way of life.
We need to gather up like we did that day as a nation, as opposed to what we're seeing now.
And replace terrorism with love.
Life is short, and it can change on the drop of a dime. And I never pass up the opportunity to tell my wife or my children that I love them.